Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Tech Talks podcast. I'm your host Sanskriti Kadam and
I am Krishi Shah. Today we have with us Lakshit Pant, who manages the Microsoft MVP and the Gold MLSA program for the Indian region. Welcome, Lakshit.
Yeah, thank you so much. Nice to be here and looking forward to recording this with you all. Thank you so much. Yeah.
yeah. Can you tell us about your journey into tech and how did you got started with those committees?
Uh, it's a it was pretty much impromptu. I never intended to be into engineering, especially the side computer science of engineering. It was just impromptu. I was initially thinking of to get into electrical engineering because that time when I was in college, that time electrical engineering, I used to be very fascinated into robots and all those stuff. So I was very much into it. But when I got into college for the for counseling and whatnot, I got a couple of suggestions there and got into computer science on the day when I started exploring it, and yeah, maybe it was very fun. The first language that I went through was JavaScript, so it was fun to work with JavaScript because there were so many things that I could eventually work around that I was using as a user at the before, right, prior to that. So maybe it was more about I got into tech by chance, but it's been fascinating. And with community, again, same thing with the community, right? I was never intent to, never very much inclined towards community, but it was more about I was looking after opportunities to, maybe upskill myself, to meet new people, not eventually meet new people, but to get more opportunities, right? So that's what my goal. And back in 2019, it was not that easy, if I would say it like this, that to get into community. So I just started sharing whatever I know in the communities. As a first year grad, it was just me sharing my knowledge, whatever I have in the industry, whatever little knowledge I used to have that time. And yeah, that's how I just started. At that time, there was no professional communities, no any ambassador program sort of, but it was more likely a bunch of college. There it was a community of I still it was a community of Chandigarh University Tech's Ed, we used to name it, right? So I just got there and we used to organize a couple of things. I joined as a technical content writer. Yeah, that's how I got started there.
This means that you have been working with Microsoft, Meta, Intel, and a lot of those companies, right? How did you land up to these opportunities?
So if you have seen the work that I have done in the past, right? It was more about the company, the startup that I was working with, Reskill, right? And at that point, right now I'm working at Microsoft, but at that time, the my former organization where I used to work at Reskill, they have all these clients like Meta, Microsoft, and Intel, Adobe, and we used to have a couple of initiatives for them. So I was looking after a multiple programs. So one of the program by Microsoft that I was looking, that is Azure Developer Community. That's again one of the most premium community, especially for the cloud right now here in India, right? So it was more about I used to explore all the opportunities where I can contribute to and wherever I can, share my whatever. I never used to I never thought in a way that I have to be master of this. If I want to share something, I just thought I'll put up my experience in the community and maybe people will get something out of it, right? So that was my intention. And when it comes to the working with companies like this, it was more about the part of my work that I was doing, right, with while being at Reskill.
So, being a manager at Microsoft MVP, so what role do you play there?
This role is fascinating, if I'll say that, because it allows me to work with lots of technical leaders, right? All these technical community leaders are working professionals, even having such incredible working experience. Most a couple of them are 30 years plus experience, having a working experience as well, right? So working with these amazing technical leaders, getting to know about things and technology, and especially when you work at company like Microsoft, right, it feels immense pleasure to build around things. And because in a way Microsoft is leading AI technology in every way, right? Especially right now after the OpenAI collaboration. So it's wonderful, and especially to drive MVP program, it involves a lot of community building. It involves a lot of my local Microsoft stakeholders engagements, and a lot of events. I'll say that in that regard. Plus, I'd not keep myself very much you know to keep myself updated with the latest technology. I make sure that I'm also jumping off something into technology. So this role is interesting. It's more about events, it's more about people, it's more about building communities and helping the community leaders, while on the other way I was building my own communities. Here I'm looking after how I can help the community leaders to so that they can build their communities. in India.
Yeah. So even I have seen on LinkedIn like the MLSA community, it's growing, popularity since days now. And
Right.
even I am also a Beta MLSA. And
Wow.
yeah. And so how did you come across this MLSA program and what motivated you to become one?
So I'll be very honest. In first year, I applied. I got rejected because that time it was you have to submit that at that point of time you had to submit a video. You have to answer a couple of questions, lead, inspire, and whatnot. But I didn't brought much experience to the table, so eventually I got rejected because I really hardly had any community experience when I applied in the first year, right? But when I got into my fourth year, I was already doing a lot of community stuff. I was driving the Azure developer company, so I started working from my third year itself, right? From last from my finals, I'll say from fifth semester sort of I started working with Reskill. So eventually I was working with lots of communities, and by the end of fourth year I was multi-cloud certified. I was doing a lot of things in the community. So I thought let's give it another try, right? And that time when I applied to it, I had already 100 plus sessions delivered virtually plus in person, right? So that led me to bring MLSA to the table and become an MLSA. Being an MLSA was pretty fascinating because while I was there, I was able to contribute because while I was driving communities with other with for Reskill, I was much into building communities and all these stuff. I was not very much focused on building my building something on my own, right? Building my own content or writing on my own blog, something sort of. But when I got into MLSA community, right, I got a thought of building starting new series. So I started a couple of successful series like this one the blogging series, maybe the 100 days of cloud. There were so many things that I started, and while I was in MLSA I wrote around 80 plus blogs while I was in Beta MLSA in 6 months, right? So 80 plus blogs, 50 to 60 offline sessions. So it was a pretty much amazing time while I was in MLSA, right? So yeah, it was fascinating to I didn't got much time to build around contribute through AI projects. That's again a really good way for anyone who is listening out there who really want to make the most out of MLSA program. Projects are the really one good way to be in MLSA communities, but I really got that much time to actually focus on those aspects. But yeah, I had a fun time across in MLSA.
Can you walk through the MLSA program, like what are the eligibility criteria and other stuff?
You just have to be a full-time grad student, right? That's it. I'm not even a grad student. You just have to be a you can be a full-time grad. I'm a postgrad student, right? That's it. This is all these are the basic criteria for MLSA. And if you see that the process has been updated from application to process to registration process. Earlier we used to submit the videos and whatnot. Now you actually you get a contribute, you apply to it, you register for it, you get your contributor ID, and you have to should drive some numbers over your contributor ID, right? Now the way I see it, because I have been hearing a lot of buzz around registration ID, contributor ID, how to actually drive it. I always see the positive side of it and how actually the student should do it. So this process has been created because we as Microsoft or as a program always think that if anyone is applying to MLSA, we believe that you should at least bring some decent experience of community to the table, right? It's not that you are going to start your journey from MLSA. You can eventually, but at least like 10, 15 people, 20 people, 30, at least some experience of community to the table, right? You should bring. So I'll say that if you have to if you're really struggling with getting some more numbers in your contributor ID and whatnot, and I have seen it a lot, like among students, people actually students actually collating all the tech communities and Microsoft links and randomly pasting in WhatsApp groups. that that doesn't work at all, right? You do not have to be that, you cannot spam like that, right? You just have to be very much progressive oriented. Right now when you actually want to do something, when if you actually want to be an MLSA, I'll say just look after building a AI project. Imagine if you are an inspiring AI engineer, right? Look after what AI project can you build with Microsoft Learn documentation. Now once you finished building that AI project, because you as an MLSA, once you finished up building that AI project, share your learnings with everyone. Like I was able to build this AI project with the help of this particular module, right? Now you share that respective module, which will eventually help you out to drive more numbers, because eventually the others will also get fascinated that, oh wow, this guy has some built something, projects because of the this learn documentation. Let me try it out. So these are the ways by you should, maybe if you are into startups, right, you can say these are the Microsoft startup founders. I have built startup. My startup just got registered here. Or maybe if you don't have own a startup, if you maybe help someone to get into Microsoft for startup. You can tell their share their story, and then you can eventually share the MS for startups program story, right? So eventually that works a lot in simple way eligibility criteria, and if you want to actually make your application stand out.
Yeah, even I have experienced the same thing. Even I was at your era where I had to give the videos and everything and also answer some of the couple questions.
Right.
Yeah, it was one of thing. So there might be some common mistakes which nowadays the current applicants do make it. So how to avoid them actually?
Now, just to clarify the question a little bit more, are you asking about the MLSA program, specifically the mistakes that people made, or
Yes,
what?
yes, yes.
So, I believe being very insensitive, or maybe very much structured about, or focused about incentives and whatnot, right? So if you see, yes, incentive plays a big role. It's indeed a good motivation, but it should not be your priority in a simple way, right? If I remember, you can say it like, you say this because you're a part of Microsoft, but it doesn't work like that. When I was a part of Microsoft, right? When I was not a part of Microsoft, when I was driving all these communities back then in my college time, right? There was no incentive, there was no sponsor actually. This time Web3 and all these, you get sponsors very easily, right? In 2019, 2020, there was no hardly any sponsor, right? There were hardly any LinkedIn premium vouchers and all these stuff. Whatever we used to do, we used to just give quality skill, or maybe quality education in a simple. We used to invite good leaders, we used to actually invite good guests, right? We need to provide that good environment in a way of community that will eventually help one to so community doesn't mean it has to be incentive focused. If you are actually looking after building a community, and look after how you can provide value to someone's life in a simple way. And when I say value, it doesn't have to, you do not have to look after helping 20 people out. Just look after how you can just help, maybe, or maybe 200, 300 people out. Just look after how you can help. Start with 10 people, right? If you want to start maybe a cloud series, right? Just start with 10 people. Teach them how to deploy a virtual machine on Azure, how to deploy a static website on Azure, right? Then when these 10 people out of, not everyone will make a blog post. If 10 out of 5 out of these 10 people will eventually go out there and tell them that maybe Sanskriti or Krishi has told us that, okay, this is something that community is helping us out, right? That's the word of mouth that will eventually help you, right? So help someone in getting, or help provide value to people, because that's long term. You will get and give incentive today, you will give swags. Trust me when I say this, I have given more than 50,000 plus swags till yet, right? More than, even more than that. I'm saying 50,000 individual t-shirts to more than 50,000 folks. I hardly remember someone saying, coming to me and said, you sir, you have given me t-shirt or bag. It doesn't work like that. But I still know a couple of folks whom, while I was driving a series called Linux Sprint series, right? I taught a couple of build help a couple of students build Linux projects, right? They still tell me and comes back to me and say, this is a project that we used to do and whatnot. So provide value, and you will be eventually, you will see yourself growing a lot, right? So that's one thing that that's a couple of things that I'll say, right, in community.
So, being in MLSA, what was the biggest benefit that you got through the program?
Uh, I'll say like-minded people, because while I was working, because I didn't, I was actually able to connect with what's going out there. Some how someone in US, maybe an undergrad student, how they look after technology, how they look after computer science, right? Someone in maybe Canada, how they look after technology. So, and how they're actually building because they do not have a typical structure like India, where they are going into a 4 years of college degree program and whatnot. It Most of them even are in 8 months boot camp, 12 months boot camp, and a 1 year degree program of computer science, so on and so forth. So I was actually able to speak to a lot of folks while as being a part of MLSA, and that led me to a that gave me a different way to learn, right? Because while everyone is looking after everything, every day something is coming up new. How do you keep yourself relevant in the industry? Plus, how do you learn these things quickly, as soon as how can you tap on the right places? How can you tap on the right steps, right? That community space, that ecosystem of speaking to multiple people, how they're actually doing it, helped out me a lot in that regard, right? So that's one take I'll say, that that helped me in the entire MLC program, simple way.
So in MLSA program, how the students can help each other in growing technical and leadership skills.
No, it's very easy. You just, if you are an MLSA and you have a peer MLSA, right? You just start something out. Maybe I see a couple of really good MLSA. I still remember there is one KRE college, KRA college in I do not I know just the MLSA KRA community, but they're actually doing a incredible job in terms of educating people, right? And they do not actually spread so whenever they are promoting any kind of event, right, they do not keep it very incentive focused. They just keep it. We are starting a 30-day 30-day DSA challenge after college. So imagine you are in your college you are two MLSAs, right? What you can eventually do after college, seek someone's, seek help of any professor and whatnot, and secure maybe one room in your college, right? Just one room for 1.5 or maybe 1 hour after college, right? And so for in this 1 hour, everyone is sitting, no speaking, no discussing anything, no random ranting and whatnot, just sitting there and doing DSA, or maybe writing some blogs, being productive, right? So this is make a culture, right? That's what I'll say. Invite more people, build this ecosystem where if you are sitting for 1 hour, 1.5 or maybe 2 hours, everyone is doing something, right? It has to be many to many. It should not be like one to many. So right now, everyone is speaking, right? But if you see, most of the time, what I see is one person is giving the session and everyone is listening to it. That's not a really good way to do any kind of sessions, right? If you actually want to build a community, especially for the students, you should do it many to many in a simple way, and that will eventually help you out. And it should be this, there should be a different time for discussion allotment. There should be a different time for if you are inter college is something that you can always do it, right? Just secure a space for 1 hour after college and sit there for 1 hour, just do DSA, right? That will bring up that consistency and you will eventually see yourself getting up brilliant out.
So, what are the different milestones in MLSA and how does it shape the experience of a particular ambassador?
Milestone as in because we have like something called Beta MLSA, we have something called Gold MLSAs, right? How I see these, the tiers that has been created by Microsoft. So once you become an MLSA, then you do couple of events, then you get promoted to Beta MLSA. Now, then you do for one now. Most we have more than 1900s or maybe more than 900 sort of Beta MLSAs in India, but we have only like 44 or 43 Gold MLSAs. Now, if you see why there is a big difference between this number, it's because the way people or student or the MLSA see it in a simple way, right? If you actually want to upskill your upgrade your tier in a simple way inside the MLSA program, look after the eligibility criteria and reverse engineer it. What I mean by reverse engineering, let's take an example. Now, if you see, Gold MLSA has this criteria that you should at least spend 1 year in MLSA program, plus you should at least have you should at least have left 6 months in your graduation. Now, if you see why are these two criterias, why these criterias are there, right? In a simple way, if you want to reverse engineer it, because Gold MLSA is more about getting specific about one technology, right? Now, while as an Beta MLSA, you are talking about multiple things. You are talking about Azure, you are talking about AI, you are talking about Copilots, you are talking about GitHub, you are talking about Linux, eventually apps. You are talking about multiple things. Now, for 1 year you have done it, now it's time to build some expertise, right? So now for the 6 months that you are left in your graduation time, at least 6 months should have, because it takes time to bring the actual I call there is an acronym that we call horizontal depth and vertical depth, right? So in order to build this vertical depth, right, you should at least have 6 months in your table, right? Now you focus on, maybe let's suppose AI. Now you will take this 6 months to eventually upskill yourself. So MLS is not only about community and what giving others. It's all about upskilling yourself first and then giving to others, right? So this 6 months that are being given to you, you take this time, build a technical depth in one particular technology, and you get better. You once you graduate, you are the maybe one of you are just ready for the industry. That's how you should do it. So this should be the this is how the you should see. And now there is one more thing that I will say, that there is one MVP program that I drive, right? Microsoft Most Valuable Professional. Now, if you actually honestly spend your 6 months into one technology, you can MLSA team program team itself will nominate you for the MVP program. You can eventually make this transition from MLSA Gold MLSA to MVP. right? But for that, you should bring that community, that technical content. So MVP is not something, if you are just speaking about how to getting started in Azure, that's not a good technical contribution. But because that's basic, right? Everyone can just read a 15-minute blog and explain it. But it should be like, what should be like, maybe, launching maybe 1,000 virtual machine by building a ARM template script, something like this, very core, very technical sort of, right? So when you do this, the program team itself nominate you, right? So that's how you should look after the entire tiers in the MLSA program, I'll say.
Yeah. So now let's talk about beyond MLSA. Like we have seen you in cohorts, which are hash include her cohorts, right? So even I was a part of it, and it was particularly focused on women. So what drives you to conduct more such cohorts?
If you see the hash include cohort, right? There was no incentives, there was no certification vouchers, there was nothing. It was pure learning. If you see, we had the incredible mentors like the Bisom, right? He's like damn good at teaching. We knew it. Even I have learned. So he was my roommate, flatmate, right? I have learned so many things from the Bisom, right? We used to, and me, Sarthak Bhaiya, Dibasam, everyone, we used to create that environment. Yeah, that this is some. We used to ideate in our, we used to be flatmate that time while we was, that was a, golden time of life, while we was, everyone, all three of us in Noida, we used to live in a flat, and we used to, ideate these, how we can help more people, how we can help more students, not by, what I said earlier, again, this proves something, right? We never were focused on something, giving some incentives, swags and whatnot. We just thought of giving and, helping actually. If you see, 500 women actually got certified out of that first squad. 500 women got certified on AG 900, right? That's not an easy task. No, no certification organization can actually do that, right? So that's how the cohort were designed. So for me, for any of us, it is pretty much simple. Give value, provide the quality education. So when you speak about a particular technology, right? It's not about what you should learn. It's always about, first you should figure out what you do not have to learn, or what part of this technology should eliminate. So imagine if it's maybe development, right? So if you will try to learn everything in development, you will take maybe more than 2 3 years, right? Just to get decent at it. But if you will try to be very precise with your technology, if you will try to be very precise with everything, it will eventually take you 45 days to get better, be decent at it, right? So first learn how to learn things, and this is our thought always, right? We always teach people how to how to eliminate things that are not very much useful, right? So I always say this: learn what is required, not what is present. So we always focus on what is required at that point of time, and we always used to teach those required concepts from basics, right? And so if you saw that cohort, we never taught how to deploy a virtual machine on Azure on the day one. It was like, what is virtual machine? Okay, now how to create that virtual machine locally on your Linux system, right? That's how, on your terminal, how to actually build it. Then we went to Azure. Okay, in Azure, if you want to do it, this is how you should do it. So if you will understand how to build it locally and why this virtual machine exists, then you will eventually do it in any other cloud platform. It doesn't really matter. So the idea is always to provide value. Simple as that.
Like as we have seen, like many people struggle in networking in technology. So what are the key aspects while attending events or conducting events for networking?
I'll say, do not sit with your friends or do not roam around with your friends. One, right? Because if you are in any event, right? If you are just roaming around with your friends, that's not something that you should do. That's again one of the very best practices that I'll say to you, right? Because you can meet your friends at any time, right? They are your friends. Make new friends, learn from people, right? And try to, and it's try to, get start the initial conversion from your own, right? It should be, and if you will, because most of the time what I see, people actually, struggle with, starting out, right? Because it's not that if we and I and you are speaking right now, it's not that you will also feel the same. Okay, what this person will think about me, and I'm also thinking, assuming the same. Okay, what this person will think about me and what he'll assume about me, right? So this perception of not starting out lead to that, not networking zone. So just get out of your comfort zone, speak to people, look after. Do not. I'm not saying there is. Do not ask silly questions, or maybe there. It's but just be respectful of someone's time. That's one mandatory thing that I'll say. If you are asking something that is already available on internet, that's not something that you should do. ask some question which where that particular person would be able to add value from his personal experience. So it's not that if you are asking about what's the what's new thing that's coming in AI, so some Microsoft to a Microsoft guy, you can always go out and internet just maybe search it, right? But if you will ask him how's been your time at Microsoft and what you actually see, what are the new things that you are might be building, and how do you see this transition happening as per, and how do you see your relevance in coming 5 years? That becomes a personal question, right? Now the person will be able to add value to your life, so in a simple way, right? So be very personal, in a professional way, simple, in a simple manner, I'll say that, and just ask questions, very simple as that.
Yeah. So, how do you see the role of tech communities evolving in the next 5 years?
Yeah, because you imagine there is one startup here in India that we call Odoo, right? That's not eventually startup. They have been there. Most of the most of us know that thought think like it's been very fresh that Odoo has started something in 2019, 2017, but it's been there for like 2006, 2007, right? It's been ages since Odoo has set up. But if you see, it's a ERP platform. Now, if you imagine companies like startups like Odoo, which provides an ERP solution, are also thinking of building a community, right? So all the most now this is something that most of the organization are able to crack right now, that you need some word of mouth if you need actually want to get some GTM, right? If you need people, if you need sales, if you need better sales for your organization, you should have a decent word of mouth. You should bring a lot. You should either up see, there are different ways to do it for any organization. Either you make a personal brand of your particular organization. Now let's imagine OpenAI. They have created a personal entity around themselves, right? OpenAI is widely popular. Everyone knows OpenAI or GPT, right? But if you see some couple of organizations where there is a person who is working more, there are a couple of roles now which mainly startup does this, like like hiring a developer advocate, hiring a developer relations engineer in India and whatnot. Right now, if you see, there is one very good example like Apprite. Now, if you see, call me Upright, the first name that I would, that I will say, that is Aditya Oberoi. Why? Because that organization has created a, image in, especially in India, that if you want something in Upright, Aditya Oberoi is the one, and Aditya Oberoi is the one who has actually introduced Upright in India, right? So, so there are different ways to do it, and the companies has eventually figured this out, that you should look after. Technical communities are really good way to actually not increase your scale, because I hardly there's certain different ways how you can actually build out. Not every organization is able to crack that, to convert that numbers, their community event numbers, to actually the business numbers. But from a word of mouth perspective, from a branding perspective, it actually works out a lot for you, right? So you see all these like Zomato is being so creative, like Swiggy, on all these organizations are being so creative with what's this? It's a community stunt, right? So it's similar to this. All the organizations are trying out very hard to build this. And for if you see, for me, how technical communities are evolving at the moment, I see a really good transition happening again back to where people are focusing more on in person things. There was a time where we were more inclined about virtual things, and everyone was into virtual thing stuff, right? But now people are shifting towards in person things, which brings more value, which brings more sense of belonging, I'll say, in a simple way. So it's a lively future, a lively future, I'll say, in a nutshell.
So talking about the AI trends, so what is the most latest trend that you're excited about?
AI trend that I'm excited about, right? Uh, so I do not usually hop on trends, to be very honest and fair. So I particulate on a lot of things, right? I keep my own assessment on a lot of things. But if you see, I'm very, from the very beginning of, since the GPT has launched, I was very excited into about agents, right? So I'm very much into agents. And if you see, not even agents, I'll say small agents. Like there is one thing that we call SAMs, that is small agentic models, and these are built for very specific use case. Now, where you see like there are bigger organizations like OpenAI, like Microsoft, and all these other organizations who are focusing on like DeepSeek and focusing on building bigger models. and there is a decent opportunities which is there available for for even for students or anyone who want to actually start up build their own startup. That's a space that I refer to. That's a space for small agentic models. You pick a very niche use case. Let's suppose it's about podcast, right? Figuring out the pattern of podcast and how actually what's the actual time frame of that people are actually listening to, what kind of trends that people are actually following in a podcast. So building these small models which will help. Now if you will sell this agentic model, this agentic service to different agencies who are actually driving podcasts, you will eventually do a lot. So you establish yourself as a research organization where you provide value and analyze different podcast industry and how actually it happens, how to grow and what are the different trends, how to hop in different trends. You actually work as a research marketplace for them, building a research marketplace for that organization. So building small solutions with the help of agents, I'll say it will bring a lot of depth to the table, and it has a lovely future. And I'll say that's one thing that I'm really excited about, because that's one thing, because I eventually have built one particular agent for myself. To earlier I used to there are, like, let's say, suppose there was one hackathon which I drove, right? I do not usually go and comment on every post now. So what I do is, typically I just start this agent that I've built, and I keep everyone who is just mentioning me out, that link will be copied and it will be directly with in a Excel sheet that I have, right? So it will shorten my work in a simple way, so that I can keep track of whatever the work going around and who is mentioning me and what's the thing going around, right? So again, that's not an example of SAMs, but again, these are the some automation that I do. So I love about automation and SAM. So one thing that I'm particularly interested, or trends that you said, it's agents. I'm very, and especially SAMs, small agents, I'll say.
Yeah. So we have also seen like a lot of tech communities uh, driven by you, right? So there must be some of the mistakes which the people do after becoming the owner of that particular tech community. So how to overcome that?
First, okay, yeah, that's a really good question. And the problem is, when you think there is a owner of a community, you are done there. There cannot be one owner of a community, right? You cannot say that this community is being owned by me. You can be the you might have started that initiative, but you can't be an owner of a respective community, right? It should not be like the case. And I won't say mistakes, but in a simple way, make everyone valuable in your community who's present in your community. That's what I said, right? You should not look after providing, reaching, getting something for 200 people. Even if you are able to crack something good for 20 people, you are set there, right? And if you keep your focus just on 20 people, and then these 20 people will go out there and then they will focus on more 20 people, that chains keep on increasing and increasing, right? So in a simple way, look after in a mistake format, just do not be very don't look after many too many. Look off, it should be many too many. It should not be one too many. Not every time, like, it should not be like I'm giving the session all the time and rest every one of you listening out. It doesn't work like that. Community should be everyone. If anyone has joined today, they would be able to contribute something to me today itself, right? From the day one. So look, build a culture like this and you will be set there in a simple way from a community perspective. Yeah, I'll say that. And there is one really good quote which there was one MVP which with whom I have recorded a podcast like 2 3 years back, and he said, "People are gem, right? And you are also gem, and you have to think in a way that first you have to look after, you have to value yourself as well. It should not be like you are not valuing yourself. You should keep a should value yourself, because if you will if you are in a case, if you're not valuing yourself, you won't be able to find value in others in a simple way. So first value your time, then you will be able to value others time as well, right? So it's work mutually. So look after how you can save people's time and how you can be respectful to them, and that's it. That's the simple trick that I will say that.
So what's that one piece of advice that you would give to MLSA ambassadors to maximize their efforts?
To maximize the
Maximize their efforts.
uh now, in what direction are you asking about these maximum efforts? See, I really So see, that's one thing that I really wanted to do with MLSA community, though it's not a part of my not a part of my work stream, right? But still, I really wanted to do is recently I just launched a 30 days of building series, right? Start these things really, again, I'd be repeating same advice again and again. Just look after how you can create more opportunities for your students. And one very important thing, be more solution oriented. Do not think about something, or do not discuss about something that you cannot change, right? So even there is like yesterday there was some incentives that has been pulled off from the MLSA program, right? Now I have seen a lot of discussion about that, but that's something you cannot change, right? You cannot, eventually you are not the decision maker for that, right? And so look after what you can, now, okay, this has happened, now what, now what's the next step that I should do to keep my community or that engagement up and running, right? So be always solution oriented and look after more creative ways. I'll give you a very good example. Now, if you see the typical ways of applying to job is not working out these days. Now, if you apply to a LinkedIn job, if you apply to a career portal, you will hardly get a response. Most of the time, it's a rejection, right? So what are the other ways? Referrals isn't working these days most of the time, right? So what are the other ways by which you can pitch to someone, right? Or maybe get a job or an internship. So if you'll just complain about it, you will always be, that you will always be on the side where you will just keep complaining, keep complaining. But if you'll eventually try to figure out a solution, you will be able to. Like if you see, there are enough startups, every day there is a new startup coming on the product to marketplaces like Product Hunt, right? So or look after if they're in a new organization who is getting funded recently, make a list of last make a list. There are so many organizations, so many communities which will give you, you can easily find out this data on internet, which companies or which organization got funded last week. Get that list, reach out to the founders and see their website. And but imagine you're a front end engineer, look at their website and see what are the changes, how you can add value to their website, right? Look after the what are the changes that you can make, which will eventually make their website better. Do not, and then reach out to the founder. Do not just type in messages. Actually go and build that first, and then share that small template or small page with that founder. Okay, this is where I believe your website could be better, could have been better. I've already built this and would be happy to discuss this more, and I'm looking for opportunities, if you can help me out with something, or if you have any opportunity for me. Now this will do three things for you. One, the founder will never reply to you even if you build the project. But the best part is you have built a project for yourself, so eventually that's a win-win situation for you. Second, the founder will reply to you, but they do not have any open position for you. But what that will do, they will keep your name up and running, and whenever there will be a portion, or if in their connections, they will refer you first because you have shown them that you can work, right? Third, the progr the the founder is will give you the job and it will give you the opportunity in the. So again, in all three cases, it's a best win-win situation. So it's a similar parallel thing, right? So look after, be always solution oriented. What's gone, that's gone. Just see what's next, as simple as that. Yeah.
So now we'll start with rapid fire questions. Like we will ask you questions and you have to answer in a word or a sentence. The first question is tech or business?
uh for me, it's tech with it's business with tech.
So one book everyone should read.
Oh my God. I'm not a bibliophile, so I never read any book in a way. I never finished any book, but there is one podcast that I can refer to everyone. That is uh that there is one guy that I can that's Matt Abraham. So he's a really good startup guy. He's a really good philosopher. He's a good psychologist. So you can actually just look after uh Think Fast, Talk Smart, right? This is the podcast series by Matt Abraham. So it has to be like, it should be must series by for anyone out there.
So what's your favorite AI tool or framework?
Oh, I love v0.com by Vercel. I love it. I love it because it saves me a lot of time. So I love it that because they have, it's a community driven. I won't say it's a AI tool, but their AI tool is again very super cool. I used to love Framer as well. There used to be a tool called Framer, which will eventually help you to, you will type some prompt, it will give you designs, Figma design sort of. Now, what I used to, for my own personal learnings, I used to do, I started something called 7 days of Framer learning. So I used to type a prompt, whatever the first design that will come to me, I'll code it. So it will help me, get better at my front end skills, right? So that was I used to do. So Framer is one, yeah, that's what I'll say. And yeah, GPT always.
So the best advice you have ever received.
Oh, again, I'm very much into podcasts, so the best advice that I have ever received is by one of the very good podcaster, a book writer and author, and he has been, really inspired a lot of folks. He's Jay Shetty. He's very popular, and he said he quoted this in a podcast that people most often do not try things or do not speak. The one thing that you are speaking about networking, right? How to network with people and how to speak with people. It applies to that one, or maybe it applies to everything in our scenario. I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. And if I have to simplify this, I assume that I live in a scenario what Krishi might be thinking about me. And then based upon that, what Krishi might be thinking about me, on that idea, I'll create a perception, or I'll create a profile of mine that I'll show to Krishi. But eventually, if you see Krishi is also thinking the same what Lakshit is thinking about me. And then he'll create an image of himself, and he'll portray himself by, in that idea. So look after, be more original in a simple way, because no one has this time to actually speak about, or think this much about someone, anyone, especially today. So just be more open, be more original, and you are done. Yeah, in a simple way.
So, what's the word that describes your leadership style?
I'll say respect. Give respect to people. Even if this, this is very contradictory, but I usually do, I whatever suits me the best, right? We in corporate culture we have this, not saying sir or madam to anyone, right? But when I feel there is a requirement, when someone with 30 years of experience, 25 years of experience come to me in person. See, formally on emails, on messages, whatever you want to do, you just do it, right? But when you're speaking to someone, you should value someone's time, right? So that's one thing that I'll say, right? So I'll say respect, be very respectful.
Your dream company to collaborate with.
I in a way, I'm already working in one of the, biggest company globally, right, at the moment. But I never had any sort of dream company sort of. But I have a dream sector. I always wanted to be into that sector. I always want to build or, do something for agriculture sector. So if I'll ever start something of my own, I'll do something in agriculture sector. So that's one thing I'll answer this. But I don't have any dream company. I'm really sorry in that regard.
So, if it was not tech, which career would have you chosen?
I told you agriculture. It would have been as simple as that. It would have been agriculture, something, and that would help us, do in India. I'm already doing it, but yeah, it would have been 100% agriculture sort of.
So that one thing which people don't know about you.
I know even my number is very public these days. So what's something? This is tricky. The one thing that people don't know about me. Okay, I am not able to recall anything at the moment, but it's more about one thing is that I'm not a privileged one, right? I'm working here at the moment here at Microsoft, but I got so many opportunity. I go, it's because of the good people that I have worked so far, right? But I was I worked very hard for it in a simple way. I come from a background, it's on a hill station in Uttarakhand where internet still struggle, right? There I got to access to YouTube in 2019. So that's one thing that hardly people knows about it, right? So, you know, I never came from a privileged background, but I really had hard times to get here. But yeah, this journey, it's not that I done something really, outrageous or then did something really cool, but it's because of the people have been always around. So yeah, that's what I'll say. That people doesn't know most of the time about me.
A tech conference or event that you would like to attend?
Wow. Uh, even after having so many uh all these conferences. Even I myself organize a lot of conferences, right? I would love to attend YC summit that every year happens, right? So it's by Y Combinator. That's again for all the startups and all the entrepreneurs, right? So that's one thing that I would love to be a part of. That's like a kind of a dream come true for me.
So your go-to stress buster.
Badminton, always. Badminton, and if it's not, because you have to go and physically present in the court. If I don't have that much time for badminton, I'll play mobile games, like I play BGMI or maybe PUBG sort of with my friends. So that's one thing that I do.
So thank you, Lakshit, for coming on our podcast and sharing your experiences and getting time for us.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been wonderful to be here. And yeah, do well in your life. You're already doing well in a way, right? So just keep inspiring a lot of people. Keep, share all your learns with people, and you're already doing great. Best of luck to both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Stay tuned for the next podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe.